I think one of the biggest reasons workplaces suck right now is there are no constraints on communication. Um, I talked about theory of constraints before. If you apply that to communication, you get what we get in the workplace, which Cal Newport talks about at length in his book, A World Without Email. Incredible book, highly recommend. I've studied that thing, studied it. And, you know, he calls it um, it's a bit of horse poo there. He calls it the hive place, the hive mind, hyperactive hive mind workflow, which is basically this path of least resistance to communication. Now that we have email and now, instant messenger, Slack and whatnot, there's just no cost to writing a message and sending it out. And so that basically means that without limits, without restrictions on when you can communicate, and how you can communicate with your teammates, you know, there's it kind of undermines systems. It undermines any system that you want to build to make things more efficient. Because someone can just undermine it to just, shooting off a message and, hey, can I get this? Can I get that? Or where are you with this? What's up with that? So it kind of, so the structure starts to dissolve, and you end up just in this reactive mode all the time. And and often, there's also the fact that it's messages as well makes it worse. Like if we just had phones, and we didn't, and when it came to written communication, we had to write a letter and give it to the postman and have him ride his horse around town, to write someone a message. It wouldn't be nearly as bad, because when you're phoning somebody up, you know that you're interrupting them, and they know that you're interrupting them. And so there's that kind of social pressure built into calling somebody to make sure that you're not doing it for no reason. And and when you call somebody and you're talking to them synchronously is the term for it, then it's way more efficient typically. This is why meetings are not all so bad. There's that whole thing of, this meeting could have been an email. Yeah, okay. I mean, sure. But the reason why a lot of meetings are actually very productive is that people are talking, back and forth. They're not messaging and then waiting for a reply back with all of the intonation and all of the other communication stripped out, just the text. And, then you reply back and blah, blah, blah. So, written communication in the workplace is fine if it's restricted to stuff which does not require a response, announcements or whatever, or something that does require a response, but it's not time specific. It's like, get to this at some point this week, sort of thing. Then it's fine. And none of the, it's like all communication technologies have like a perfect zone where they sit. And with anything that requires a response, I've actually started to do this now, and it's helped a ton in, cutting down, like just wasting time with back and forths. Is if somebody sends me a message which I then need to reply to, or I have a question and I have to get that question, I have to ask them a question. They have to get back to me, and I know that it's probably going to also be a few more knockbacks, or maybe many more. But even if there's any reply of, wait, what about this? Any reply that is anything more than just yeah, fine, or no, not fine. And usually no, not fine requires a response and blah blah blah. Basically, if there's a response beyond just a thumbs up, I call them, which you do in Slack just with the huddle thing. And um and if they can't talk, then I'm like, okay, get back to me when you can. um and you know it's like, and I'm just thinking about other scenarios, like, but basically the basic scenario of cutting down messages, because I hate messages, man. Cutting down the amount of messages you get is by just having the stones to call them if they message you with something that requires a response back. And usually I've found that when they're there, when you start talking, you figure out, oh yeah, this, like, we actually have to discuss something here, right? And it would have taken who knows how many messages and how many disruptions, because every message is a disruption. um and even if it's not a disruption, even if you batch it into a particular time in the day, you still need to like go through a bunch of different messages then that are like a different mental context that you have to load up for each one. And it's like, nothing really happens. You just kind of bounce it forward and move it forward a little bit. But instead you're like, okay, let's just sacrifice a little bit of time together to fix this thing, to actually like get to the bottom of it together. Then you find you can do that way faster. You can get it done there instead of it dragging out. And total time is less as well. And um, and yeah, you find that there actually needed to be a whole discussion here, right? But you can get that done really quick on a call. And so yeah, there are problems to doing that, to in a sense of having no restriction on when you can call somebody has its own issues. But um, just that little thing has cut down a ton of messages, and it just it puts it in its place. It's like, no, it's not really appropriate for you to use this messaging format, this instant messaging format, to kick off this whole debate. Even if they don't think that's what they're doing, or to say, oh, can you just do this, with like no context or no anything. It's just like, hey, can you do this? And you're like, I have like 7 questions, bro. Okay, I'm gonna call you. And yeah, I think people appreciate it. I mean, they don't want to do it. They don't want to call because it does take, weirdly, a little bit. It does take a little bit of courage to do, a little bit of boldness, you know. And a lot of people would just rather, the path of least resistance without constraints is what you're going to fall into, unless you make yourself not. And so the path of least resistance when it comes to communication in the workplace is for sure sending a quick message. And it's not phoning somebody, because then you have to like deal with the person. Okay. Yeah. It's my tip of the day.